I just want to gush about the Portland Trailblazers a little bit. Originally, this was going to be one of those what we learned from topics where, a WWFL, what we learned from, WWLF, what we learned from, WWLF, excuse me. And I was going to talk about the Blazers-Grizzlies play-in game, and I still want to talk about that game briefly because, first of all, it's the first ever NBA play-in game, which is just so wild. And it was funny hearing people talk about how, what do you do with the stats from an NBA play-in game when there's never ever been another one before? It's not really a playoff game. It's not really a regular season game. All the points scored, all of Yusuf Nurkic's rebounds, what do you do with those statistics? Are they regular season stats? Are they playoff stats? Where do they go? They just go to the player totals, ? Nobody really knows. They're kind of in a limbo that's really fun from a stats perspective. Super odd, super unique. I'm not normally a stats guy, but that's kind of crazy. And I want to give the Grizzlies some credit. The Memphis Grizzlies, man, they're a fun team to watch. If you haven't watched them, unfortunately their season is over, so you can't. But Ja Morant, man, oh my gosh. Ja Morant should be the NBA Rookie of the Year. He's developing as a shooter, too. He had a really wild step-back three against the Blazers. And it's so impressive and fun to watch him. He's so fast. He just, he slashes to the basket. For me, I want to call him Flash Morant. Not Ja Morant. Let's call him Flash Morant. And I picture him with, the Flash mask on, his little mustache and the hair. Maybe he looked kind of like Static Shock with a mustache. That'd be kind of cool. It's also cool that in the Blazers-Grizzlies game, 3 of the best players on the court were players who went to mid-majors for college. You had Damian Lillard, who went to Weber State. CJ McCollum went to Lehigh. Ja Morant went to, Murray State. It's wow, these are guys who went to mid-major small schools, and they're dominating in the NBA. Now, the Blazers are such a compelling story right now. They have fought their way into the playoffs. They're kind of the ultimate underdog where they fought back, they got in. Not to mention Damian Lillard's cousin died, Brandon Johnson, who was Damian Lillard's personal chef. He also did cook for CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic. So Damian Lillard had a big loss in the family. Yusuf Nurkic had his grandma die from COVID-19. These are awful, tragic losses, and I've been through loss. Losing your brother, losing anybody is really terrible. And so not only are the Blazers interesting with really heart-wrenching, compelling stories, they're also, regardless of what happens, you've got Carmelo Anthony, you've got so many underdog stories. They're the 8th seed against the number 1 seed LA Lakers coming up soon. But regardless of what happens in the future for the Portland Trailblazers in the playoffs, I just got to say, I will always remember what Damian Lillard did in the NBA bubble. It was such a crazy run. 45 points against the Nuggets, 51 against Philly, 61 against the Dallas Mavericks, 42 points to clinch the 8th seed against the Brooklyn Nets in a really close, tight game in that final game in the bubble, man. The Blazers, and really Damian Lillard. Even in a game, the Blazers lost to the Boston Celtics, but they were down 20 points at halftime, and CJ McCollum was really, really struggling to guard Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is 6'8", CJ is 6'3", and the Celtics were a bad matchup all around for the Portland Trailblazers. Their mix of speed and height is tough to defend, and the Blazers could not make it work. They're too slow to, Zach Collins, Yusuf Nurkic were too slow to guard their tall wing defenders. And what Damian Lillard did, Jason Tatum was having a game where he was going off, and in the second half of that game, Damian Lillard decided to guard Jason Tatum all by himself, took it upon himself. And the Blazers fought all the way back, even though they didn't win that game, to fight from down nearly 20 points and come all the way back against a team you're really not matched up well against because Damian Lillard just decided to put the team on his back in that moment. They didn't win, but it's so cool the way Damian Lillard has taken ownership and really responsibility for the Blazers season this year. He wants to do everything he can to win. He leaves it all out on the court. I love it. I find Damian Lillard incredibly inspiring because not only do you see how close he is with his teammates, you literally can watch how they interact, their body language. The way he touches Yusuf Nurkic during the memorial, the national anthem, and they're very tight-knit. And then there's moments where he'll pull the team together on the court. Hey, you 5, come here. And they talk. He's like, we got to get going. You see him pumping up the dudes around him. Damian Lillard is an incredible leader, and his style of play means that he's never going to have regret. And that's such a cool thing to be able to say, I've given it everything I possibly can. And when I look back on my life, I hope I can feel the same way Damian Lillard will feel after this playoff run and say, I gave it everything I could. Damian Lillard is incredible. Now, I live in the Portland area. It's possible that does influence my affinity for the Blazers just a little bit. But I'm not a Blazers fan. In fact, growing up, even though I grew up here for a lot of my life, I actually resented the Portland Trailblazers because as a kid, I was a Seattle Sonics fan. And so when the Seattle Sonics left Seattle, I was left without a team, and I was heartbroken. And I was mad that I had to root for the stupid Trailblazers. I was like, this is my team. I don't want the Trailblazers. And so my whole life I felt I just didn't want them. And the Seattle Sonics no longer exist. I do not have a favorite team. But I also love that the Blazers are this incredible underdog. It's so fun to watch them. And I love an underdog. Anytime, I remember rooting for Butler a couple years ago in the men's NCAA championship. I like an underdog. That's who I am. I like rooting for that. Now, all that being said, gushing about how much I love the Blazers. They've got Carmelo Anthony, Gary Trent Jr., Yusuf Nurkic, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. Despite my clear affinity for the Blazers, I don't believe that they're going to beat the Lakers in round one of the NBA playoffs. You have the number 1 seed LA Lakers, LeBron James, Anthony Davis against the number 8 seed Portland Trailblazers. And I really hope it's going to be an interesting, competitive series. I think it's going to be really fun. I am praying for that. And it's possible that maybe my pessimism is because I'm trying to guard my heart. Like, I don't want to get my hopes up and then be disappointed later. And I love LeBron, but I got to say, it would be really cool to see the Blazers beat LA. It'd be awesome. I don't know how they're going to do it. The two biggest stars for the Blazers are tiny. You got Damian Lillard at 6'2", CJ McCollum at 6'3". CJ McCollum, I love him. He's not a great athlete. He's not a great defender at all. So who's going to guard LeBron James? Who's going to guard Anthony Davis? Maybe Yusuf Nurkic can guard AD. But the Blazers are really bad at communicating with the pick and roll. Zach Collins and Hassan Whiteside, the two other 7-footers for the Blazers, are really slow. And Zach Collins, Hassan Whiteside, they struggle to defend the three-point line. They're literally too slow when it comes to closing out. And again, I go back to C.J. McCollum. I like C.J. McCollum. He's a really good offensive player. He's really lacking on the defensive side of the ball. And not only is he short, not only not super athletic, he's also literally got a fractured lower back right now. I just think that I am very concerned about the Blazers' defense, and I do not see how they're going to find a way to beat the Lakers. But I got to say, I'd love it. They're a great underdog. And then not to mention, again, the Blazers revived. The 2020 Blazers team have revived Carmelo Anthony's basketball career. It's like, oh, yes. I loved Melo as a kid. I remember he was the cover athlete of NBA Live 2005. I had that on my PlayStation 2. I remember playing with Carmelo Anthony. And literally 15 years later, he's still in the NBA, still making it happen. The turnaround J I used to shoot when I was a kid against my little brother, he's doing on live television. I'm like, this is insane to me. And so watching Melo this year has given me this incredible feeling of nostalgia. And then, Gary Trent Jr. has been really fun to watch. He was a second year, what am I calling it? He's a second year player who was drafted in the second round out of Duke in 2018. Gary Trent Jr., I call him GT Jr., can hit threes. He can defend a little bit, gives great effort. He's evolving as a player. He's kind of adding to his game beyond just shooting threes. I like the Blazers. I've really enjoyed watching them this year. I hope that their journey does not end in the first round of the playoffs against the LA Lakers. I'm sure it will. But even if it does, even if the Blazers lose to the LA Lakers, I gotta say, it's been a fun ride. They really made the bubble enjoyable and entertaining. Like, the bubble was great all around. But for me, the Blazers were the highlight of the bubble. It was fun to watch them. They're an underdog. They made it in. They got the 8 seed. Melo, Nurkic, Dame. It's been a great time. And for me, Damian Lillard is just the most compelling player in the entire NBA. So I wanted to do a tribute, thank the Blazers. Their 2020 campaign has been really fun. and I had a blast watching them this year. If this is the end, if in a couple games from now they're eliminated from the NBA playoffs, they lose to the Lakers, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they compete and win. But even if they lose, I got to say, man, thank you so much to the Blazers. They gave me a lot of great entertainment, and it's been a really fun time.